I want to start with a specific, really frustrating moment that shows up in the research we're looking at today.
Okay.
It's a scenario that, I mean, I think anyone who has ever done voice training knows intimately.
Mm.
Maybe you're in your car or you're just at home doing the dishes, you're singing along to something, talking to yourself, and the voice is just there.
It's there. The pitch is right. The resonance is forward.
You are technically nailing it.
It's what some people call the bedroom voice phenomenon. In a safe, controlled environment, the ability is 100% there.
And it's not in your head. You have the actual evidence, but then the variables change. You walk into a coffee shop to order something, or you have to speak up in a work meeting on Zoom. The stakes just go up a little bit, and suddenly it's gone. The voice tightens, or it drops into that range you've been trying so hard to avoid, or it just cracks completely.
And I think the first place your mind goes, almost always, is to blame the technique. You think, I just need to practice my scales more, or, my larynx control isn't good enough.
Which is a totally logical assumption.
Yeah.
I mean, if the car breaks down, you check the engine. But the source material we're covering today argues that's the wrong diagnostic entirely. We aren't looking at a mechanical failure here. We're looking at a nervous system response.
And that is the absolute core thesis of the text we're diving into. The argument is that when your voice fails in those high-stakes moments, it isn't because you forgot how to speak.
Right.
It's because your body has prioritized what it sees as safety over your desire for expression.
Nervous system safety. That's the exact phrase the author uses. And it's so interesting because usually when we deep dive into voice, we're looking at, spectrograms or discussing vocal fold mass.
Very technical stuff.
Super technical. We're talking about the anatomy of sound production.
Which is all valid, of course. But that anatomy doesn't exist in a vacuum. The sources today are looking at that intersection of physiology and psychology.
So you're talking about regulation, fear responses.
And this specific way the body kind of braces against the world. I mean, the mission here is to understand why the body seems to betray the voice under stress, and then how to move from, say, performing a voice to truly embodying one.
Okay, let's dig into that idea of betrayal, because that is what it feels like.
It really does.
You want to do one thing, your body does another. So why does the nervous system decide that dropping your pitch or tightening your throat is the safe move when you're just trying to order a coffee?
It all comes down to a concept the text calls vigilance.
Vigilance, okay.
And in this context, vigilance isn't just, being careful. It's a physiological state. The text describes it as this background process that's always running in your brain, constantly scanning for threat.
And if you have any kind of fear of being flogged or questioned or even just disapproved of,
your brain tags that whole environment as potentially hostile.
And we know from basic evolutionary biology that when a mammal detects a hostile environment, it doesn't relax and sing and irate.
No, it braces. It prepares for impact. And the source breaks down exactly what happens biologically during this vigilant state. And it's pretty damning for voice production.
Yeah, so what's happening?
The very first thing is the startle pattern.
Oh, this is the reflex where your neck muscles contract to protect the jugular, right?
Basically, yeah. The shoulders hunch up, the jaw clenches, and all the muscles around your larynx just constrict. It's like a protective shield.
But that's the opposite of what you need. For a light, bright, feminine resonance, you need flexibility in those exact muscles.
So vigilance creates rigidity. You're fighting your own armor.
You're trying to push a flexible sound through a rigid tube.
Precisely. And the text points out that vigilance also changes your breathing. You switch to that shallow, high chest breathing.
The fight or flight breath.
Right. Which means you lose all the breath support you need to sustain a higher pitch, and the voice just destabilizes and drops.
The source says it explicitly, right? Vigilance pulls the voice downward.
It's a physical constriction.
Yeah.
Your body is trying to make you smaller, quieter, safer by going back to its most default, lowest energy setting.
It's so interesting because I think most people interpret that drop as a lack of talent or a lack of discipline. Like, if I was just better at this, I wouldn't drop.
And that's the tragedy the author is really highlighting. It's not a skill issue.
It's a protection mechanism.
It's a protection mechanism. Your body is doing exactly what it evolved to do to keep you alive. It's just that in our modern social world, that mechanism can be really counterproductive.
So if the problem is that the parking brake is on because the car thinks it's on a cliff, the solution isn't to slam on the gas harder, it's to release the brake.
That's the perfect analogy. You can't force the voice over the nervous system. You have to regulate the nervous system to allow the voice.
This brings us to a concept in the text that I found really compelling, which is the trap of split attention.
Ah, yes.
This feels like the cognitive side of that physical bracing.
It's the software side of the problem, exactly.
The source talks about scanning or monitoring.
Yeah.
You're talking to someone, but you aren't really with them. You're watching their eyebrows. You're looking for that tiny micro expression of confusion.
Yeah, that little flicker that says they've noticed something.
Right.
The text frames this as sort of a math problem of cognitive load. Let's say you have 100 units of attention available.
Okay.
Just speaking with a modified voice already takes up, let's say, 40 units, because it's a complex motor skill you're still learning.
Makes sense.
Now, if you are also scanning the room for threats, analyzing the barista's reaction, and judging your own sound in real time, that takes another 50 or 60 units.
You're out of RAM.
You are crashing the system. Source calls this split attention. You literally cannot be fully expressive and fully analytical at the same time.
The brain can't do both.
It can't process the motor signals for the voice efficiently because it's too busy processing all this perceived threat data from the room. And the result is what the source calls destabilized consistency. The voice wavers because the signal from your brain is getting interrupted.
And there's a psychological trap here too, right? The control fallacy.
Yes. We scan because we think that if we monitor the other person closely enough, we can somehow control their perception of us.
Like if I see them look confused, I can quickly fix my voice before it's a problem.
But the source argues that's a total illusion. You can't control their reaction. You can only control your own state.
So by trying to micromanage their perception,
You're actually just jacking up your own internal threat level, which makes the voice tighter, which then makes the reaction you fear more likely to happen.
it's a complete self-fulfilling prophecy. You scan for danger, which makes you tense, which makes your voice crack, which creates the danger you were afraid of in the first place.
So the only exit ramp, according to the text, is to stop scanning out there and start regulating in here.
Okay, let's get tactical then. The source offers what it calls somatic strategies. And I want to be clear for everyone listening, this isn't just take a deep breath and chill.
No, not at all. These are specific biohacks to interrupt that vigilance loop.
Mechanical interventions.
Exactly. The goal is to manually send a safe signal to your vagus nerve. The first one is the most obvious, but also the hardest to do in the moment. Slow. The breath.
And specifically, the source mentions lengthening the exhale. Why the exhale?
Well, the inhale is linked to the sympathetic nervous system. That's the gas pedal. The exhale is linked to the parasympathetic system. That's the brake.
Ah.
When you're vigilant, you hold your breath or you take these short, sharp inhales. By consciously forcing a long, slow exhale, you're physically forcing your heart rate to slow down.
You're literally hacking your own system.
You're reverse engineering safety. Okay, the next instruction is release the jaw.
I noticed the source links jaw tension directly to pelvic tension.
It's a deep, primal connection. When mammals are under threat, we clench the jaw and the pelvic floor at the same time. But for voice, a tight jaw just locks the larynx.
Can't do it.
You physically cannot resonate in a feminine range with a clenched jaw. It locks a whole mechanism. So drop the jaw, unstick the tongue from the roof of your mouth.
And the third one?
Drop the shoulders. This sounds so simple, but it's about deactivating that startle reflex. When your shoulders go down, the neck muscles have to lengthen.
The source sums this all up with a phrase I circled. A relaxed body sustains a stable voice.
That's it right there. It's almost like the voice is a byproduct of the relaxation.
So that's the mindset shift.
That's the shift. Instead of thinking, I need to make a sound, you think,
Yeah.
I need to create a safe container in my body. If the container is safe, the sound will emerge. If the container is crushed by fear, the sound will be crushed too.
But, and I'm going to play devil's advocate for a second, it's very hard to create a safe container when you are genuinely terrified of being harassed or mocked. I mean, it's not always just in your head. The stakes can be very real.
Absolutely. And the source acknowledges that. It's not suggesting you gaslight yourself into thinking there's no danger. It's suggesting that adding your own internal tension to an already dangerous situation doesn't help you survive it better.
It actually hinders your ability to navigate it.
Right. Being tense doesn't make you safer, it just makes you more rigid.
That makes sense. And that actually leads perfectly into the section on rehearsing safety. Because if we can't always control the environment, we have to control how we practice.
This was one of the most practical sections for me. The author argues that most people practice sound, but they don't practice safety.
Meaning they practice the scales, but they don't practice the feeling of being okay while they're doing it.
Exactly. If you only ever use your target voice when you are stressed out or actively critiquing yourself, your brain starts to build a very strong associative link. Feminine voice equals stress.
The text calls this associative learning.
Yeah, and we need to break that link. You have to build up a reservoir of experiences where you use the voice and nothing bad happened.
So the suggestion is to practice in what the source calls low-stakes containers.
Right. Reading aloud to yourself. Talking to a pet.
But doing it specifically while focusing on the feeling of bodily comfort.
Yes. The question isn't, does this sound perfect? It's, does this feel easy? The goal is to teach your nervous system that this mode of speaking is safe and normal and mundane.
Mundane seems to be the key word there. If it feels like a big performance, it triggers adrenaline. If it feels mundane, the cortisol drops.
And that familiarity is what reduces the threat response. The more boring it feels, the better. You are literally rewriting the map of your nervous system to say, this voice is just how I speak, rather than, this voice is a special trick I have to pull off.
Which brings us to, I think, the philosophical heavy lifting of this whole deep dive, the distinction between identity and performance. Because for a lot of people listening, the voice is a performance at first. It's something they're constructing.
It starts that way for sure. It's a skill you have to acquire. But the source warns against getting stuck in what it calls the approval trap.
There's a quote here, your voice is not a request for validation.
Your voice is not a request for validation. Just sit with that for a second. When you speak, are you stating who you are? Or are you asking, is this okay? Do you accept me now?
And that's the split attention all over again. If I'm asking for validation, I have to be monitoring your reaction.
And a voice that is asking for permission is inherently unstable. It wobbles because it's waiting for a verdict from outside.
So the source argues that to stabilize the voice, you have to move from external reference
to internal reference, meaning the metric of success has to change. It's no longer, did they think I sounded cis?
It becomes,
did that feel aligned with me? Did that feel coherent? The term the text uses a lot is internal coherence.
internal coherence is the anchor.
It is. And if you are anchored in your own body, then a confused look from a barista is just.
Yeah.
It's data. It's not a catastrophe.
The source actually has a kind of tough love moment here about disapproval. It says, confidence does not mean universal approval.
I think we all need to hear that. We have this idea that if I was truly confident or if I was perfectly passable, everyone would treat me perfectly.
And the source says, no, that's not it.
No. Confidence is stability despite variance. It's the ability to stay grounded even when the feedback from the world is mixed or even negative. It describes disapproval as uncomfortable, not catastrophic.
That's that biological reframe again. Your nervous system thinks social rejection is literally death.
And your cognitive brain has to gently remind it, no, it's just awkward for a minute. We are safe.
But let's take the worst case scenario. You're grounded, you're breathing, you're not seeking validation, and the voice cracks anyway. It glitches. What then?
The source is very specific here. It says, fluctuation does not invalidate authenticity.
That's a bumper sticker right there.
It really is.
Yeah.
Cisgender women's voices crack. They drop. They get raspy. If your voice glitches, the source advises against what it calls the apology spiral.
You mean where you stop, you look terrified, you cough and try to explain yourself?
Yes. That just signals to everyone in the room, alert, something went wrong, I am failing.
Right.
The protocol the source suggests is simple. Regulate, reset, continue.
Just treat it as a non-event.
If you treat it as noise, the listener treats it as noise. If you treat it as a disaster, the listener perceives a disaster. The source frames these glitches as just data.
Okay.
If you crack, it's just your body telling you, hey, we got a little tight there, maybe check the jaw. It's information, not an indictment of your gender.
It removes the moral weight from the mechanics.
Exactly.
You know, as we start to wrap this up, I'm thinking about how we started this conversation. We started talking about the frustration of a voice failing. But we've ended up talking about something so much bigger, about how we inhabit our own bodies in public spaces.
It's all connected. You can't separate the voice from the self. The journey the source describes is moving from trying to sound like a woman to just being a woman who is speaking.
And that shift really requires that internal coherence. It requires deciding that your own experience of your voice matters more than the random feedback of a stranger.
And that, in turn, requires exposure. The source ends on this really powerful idea that you can't think your way into safety. You have to speak your way into it.
There's another great quote. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is speaking while your body learns safety.
Every single time you speak up, regulate that breath, and just survive the moment, you are teaching your nervous system that it's actually okay. You're expanding your zone of comfort inch by inch.
It shifts the goal from perfection to just practice.
Which is a much more achievable and kinder goal.
Is there one final thought from the text that you think really summarizes this whole shift?
Yeah, there is. It's a sentiment right at the very end that I think is crucial. It says, you do not need permission to sound like yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And the more you stop asking for permission internally, the easier the voice is to maintain. That is where confidence lives.
The more you stop asking for permission internally. Wow, that's the work right there, isn't it?
It's the hardest work, but it's the most rewarding.
Well, thank you for unpacking all of this with us. It's given me a whole new way to look at why we sound the way we do.
It was a pleasure.
And for everyone listening, remember, check your jaw, lengthen that exhale. The safety starts with you. We'll see you in the next deep dive.